Welcome back, everyone. I just got some requests to do basically walk through bash scripts. I put out my video, I'll put a card up there, about an introduction to bash scripting and just the bash programming language. But I had some requests that, yeah, sure, here's the syntax, here's how it could be used, but it would be helpful to actually walk through a script and say, this is what this is doing, this is why it's done this way, and just walk through some scripts. So I'm just going to walk through my battery power script I have up here in my status bar. You can see I have two outputs here. I'm going to walk through step by step everything in my script and what they're doing, why they're doing it, and just how it's put together. If you have like specific requests of some things you'd like me to look at, I will consider that. But for now, let's dive in. So I'm still using i3Blocks, i3Gaps actually, i3Blocks. So this is a status bar script. So this script actually produces output into my i3Blocks status bar. If I go to my status bar right here, I have a battery module. This is basically, it will call the script unless you have command. If you have command right here, then this supersedes whatever's written here in the block name. And so in this case, I'm calling the battery script on the bat0 input. So bat0 is the input into this script, and the interval is every 5 seconds this will execute. Because it's my battery power, it's constantly changing. I want it on a short interval so it's constantly updating to a live value. And you can see I have two of them here because I have two batteries. I have the internal battery for my ThinkPad, and then I also have a slice battery attached to the bottom. So I basically have two batteries. So if I go to where these variables are stored, the files, in sys/class, you will see that I have two batteries. But in any case, let's go back here. So currently the shebang is looking for user bin env shell. This doesn't really, unless I actually symlink bash to dash, it's not really going to do POSIX shell. A goal of mine is to make things more POSIX, but for now I run bash, so it's fine at the moment. Currently it does pass shell check. So, for now, it works. Long-term goal to make things completely POSIX, but we'll get there when we get there. So, case block button, if we echo that, oops, need to add there we go. So we got nothing in block button. So why is this blank? Well, because this is receiving input. So in this case, we're going to be receiving the input into battery. So let's just do battery bat0. It outputs this. So block button is actually going to receive the input, which is bat0 or bat1, because that's what I have in my i3Blocks config file. So first thing it does is it has this case statement. Now, this case statement is only going to have like output when I actually click on my status bar. So 1, if this was a 1, it would be a left click. If it was a 2, it would be a middle click. And 3 is a right click. So when I right click, all of these actions are going to be executed. So if I right click, come on, it'll right click. There we go. So if I right click, it will actually output this. It'll tell me about what the battery module is doing. But what does all this stuff do? So pgrep is looking for a process. So in this case, we're going to do pgrep-x for exact. We want an exact name of a process for Dunst. So what this is doing is it's saying, hey, does an instance of Dunst already exist? Find a process ID, or PID. And in this case, Dunst currently is running. But we also have the output, the standard output, going to dev null, which is the null device, meaning be quiet. Run the command, but be quiet. I don't want to see any output in my terminal. So it puts out no output. But the reason why this is, don't we want to know that? No. We want this to succeed. We want to know that a current instance of Dunst is running. So if this does execute correctly, and there is an instance, then the status value of this is a 0, meaning everything's working fine. It's great. It's silent. The double ampersand says run what is to the left, and if it succeeds, then run what is to the right. It's a stopgap. If the first action fails, then the ampersand will make sure that it quits the process. It does not continue on. If you did a semicolon, it would run first thing and then second thing, regardless of the success or failure of the first thing. So in this case, we find a current existing PID or process ID, and then we run, if their instance exists, we run this notify send, which is just that little pop-up notification that shows me that information about the status bar. This is pretty standard for i3Blocks, and that's all I have set. I don't have a left or a middle click setting for this right now. I might put something in the future, but for now, it's just a right click for info. So next thing, we have capacity. The variable capacity is receiving the output of this command substitution. The command substitution, the first thing we want to pay attention to is that it has parentheses around this $1. Basically what that means is that the input into the script. This is your bat0, bat1. So you're basically filling in the system path with bat0 or bat1, depending on which variable you run. The output would be the same, but we're catting out all of this. So let's just write this out. So command substitution basically says, run all this command, and whatever the output is, that gets assigned to the variable. So we're going to do cat sys class power supply, and now I'm just going to say bat1, and then / capacity, because that's what we're looking at, and the output is 99, because my battery is currently full at 99%. So my capacity is 99, which means capacity now receives the value of 99 for bat1. If this failed, for whatever reason, it would exit the script. This is that first stopgap. You don't want to run other actions if something has failed or if it's a critical failure. Like, for instance, if you don't have a battery, then this probably should not be running. Or if you only had one battery, and in any case, if it failed and there was no output or something broke, then you want this to exit and exit immediately. Technically, this should have an exit 1, meaning like a catch-all status error saying, hey, if something broke and this exited, something really bad happened. So you should know that. I've never had it happen, but it's there as a stopgap. Next thing is status. It's the exact same thing as before, except it's the actual status. So if I back that up, status, then the status is actually unknown. So what I found out is that when it comes to the battery power, unknown basically just means it's a static charge. You could have a full battery with an unknown status, or you could have an empty battery with an unknown status, and that actually caused some issues with logic I had to fix in my script later on. But in any case, we are gathering the capacity and the status, the current number of battery power we have, and the current status of that battery's charging state. So with those, we have this giant if statement, and basically all this is doing is it's saying, hey, look at the capacity, which is that number we got. Currently I'm at 99. And each of these statements is saying if, and then the test is capacity. Even though it's a number, we wrap our variables in double quotes, always just in case. It's not necessary in this instance because it's a number and not text, so we don't have to worry about string splitting, but just in case, wrap your variables in double quotes. But it's saying if, and test this. The test is saying capacity is greater than or equal to 85. Currently it is. It is 99. So if this test is successful, and it is, we get a true or a 1. So then the variable color receives a hex code of, and then these are all Grovebox colors. So currently 99 is this 689D6A. That is this nice cyan or tealish looking color. And you can see that it matches my battery status bar. But these are all Grovebox colors. And then basically based on the battery power, it will test. So if this fails, it is not greater than or equal to 85. Well, then the next test is, okay, well, is it greater than or equal to 65? And it goes down and down and down and down. And the lower it gets, the more it goes from like green to orange or from yellow to orange to red until it gets lower and lower in battery power. And this is all doing the exact same thing. Is capacity greater than or equal to this number? And as it fails, you can easily catch things by saying greater than or equal to. Because if it fails 85, then it's going to be less than 85, but it could still be greater than or equal to 65. So these are just like successive levels of catching whatever battery power we're currently at, and then assigning the variable color a specific color value hex code. Now, if none of these are true, so basically if battery is so low that it is less than 10, that means that this else if or elif statement fails. So the catch-all at that instance is this else statement. Basically, color becomes FB4934, and that is this very loud red color. And the warn variable gets this battery icon from Font Awesome that has an exclamation point in it. Now, this will all come together in the next few lines of code, but that is important to know, is that this is where the color's coming from, and then if you're critically low on battery power, warn is getting this exclamation point battery from here. So next thing we're going to test. So now we just have some successive tests. These are not if statements, because if you want to just say if something is true, then run successive actions until something fails, or just run them all successfully, you can easily just do double ampersands. Instead of writing long if statements with a lot of extra text, you could easily just do a test, and then if that test passes, then double ampersands to successfully run the next thing. So what we're testing here is the warn variable null? So if that's true and warn is equal to nothing, then warn is equal to absolutely nothing, which is this closed double quote, basically a null string. There is not even a space. It takes up no space. And this is just to be doubly sure. We don't want warn to be equal to anything if warn is a null string, meaning the color or the value of capacity is not lower than 10. So the next line, if status, and now we're dealing with text in status, so we definitely want our variable wrapped in double quotes. Granted, you're probably not going to encounter spaces unless you get to not charging, like you can see here. So always wrap with double quotes. So we're testing, is status equal to charging? If that is true, then also execute the test to say, is warn not null? Meaning, is the variable warn equal to something? Does it have this battery value or this battery icon? Which means that in that case, the capacity is less than 10, but we're charging. So my personal preference was, if my battery is so low that it's below 10% and it's critical, and I have this red exclamation mark battery icon, but if I'm charging my battery and I have it plugged in and I'm good now because it's charging, I don't want to see that obnoxious, exclamation point. I have got the point. I am now charging my battery. So I turn that off. I say, if it's charging and it's warning me that the battery is critically low, turn off warning because I'm charging it. So I know it and I'm good and it's charging. Next one is if the status is discharging, meaning it's just releasing energy, it is not plugged in and a battery is now losing power by expending it, and warning is not null, meaning we are now critically below 10 on battery capacity and we are still discharging, we are not charging, then status equals nothing. So status is discharging because we're losing power, but we are critically below 10 battery power. So I don't want to see two icons because discharging has its own battery icon. I don't want to see that. If it's critical, I want to see the critical one only, the exclamation point in the battery. So that's why I turn status to 0 here. Now this last one is saying if capacity is equal to 0, meaning our battery is empty, and status equals unknown, which is what happens when you have a static charge. Either it's completely full or it's completely dead. So if the capacity is 0, we have a static charge, meaning it's not charging, it's dead, and warning is not null, then that means, okay, your battery's done, it's empty, you're not charging. In that instance, change status to an empty battery icon because it's not warning anymore, it's dead, it's empty. Change status to an empty battery and turn off warn because we're past warning, we got it, the battery is now dead, it's empty, replace that with an empty battery icon. Now, at that point, I've removed some things here, I might add those back in. You can grab the latest one of my dot files, I gotta test this, but at this point, we're doing a printf statement, and this is what is actually output to the status bar. This is, as it currently stands, all of this is just logic. This is what is actually putting output into the status bar. And the status bar is receiving a printf statement that has in it some HTML and inline CSS and 4 string inputs. That's what these %s's are. So printf is a C function that is usable within Bash, and printf is going to say, I have 4 strings I am inputting into this, this text string, and this text string contains a span HTML element, some inline CSS, and a new line break. So the first input, color, is equal to a string. That string is the variable color, which got assigned up here. So based on our current battery capacity, it gets assigned a color. That's what covers the text output, and the color of this text is whatever the battery capacity currently is. Now we have 3 inputs within the span elements. So all the stuff right here, the actual output text, that's what's going to be added next. So what is added? The first thing that's added is the icon, like you can see here, and we're echoing the value of the status variable. Now you can see this is in a command substitution, so all of this is basically returning the output of the command into printf. It's not going to be all this text here, it's going to be the output of this command. So echo status, and status would be whatever the current status is, so charging, discharging, unknown, whatever that status is, pipe that into sed. Now we have an E option here. So sed with the E option is saying it's a script, so add the script to the commands to be executed. Cool. So what we're going to do is we are going to run successive sed functions, or regex replacements. So we are saying take status, discharging, not charging, charging, unknown, etc., and pipe that into sed. Whatever the value is, replace it with something. So you're going to find whatever the value currently is. So it could be discharging. If it is, replace it with this icon and a space. If it's charging, replace it with this icon and a space. You get the point. It finds the status and replaces it with a battery icon and a space, so the output is aesthetically pleasing. Now, because color was already set, the color of the battery icon will change. This is why I use Font Awesome for my status bar icons instead of, I think it's just Joy Pixels, because I don't like the shiny plasticky look. I actually wanted to change the color of my icons to actually be Grovebox colors. So that's why I use Font Awesome. So now we're finding the icon that matches the capacity that I set, and I set these all myself. I never get not charging. That would probably mean something worse is going on. But discharging, charging, unknown, if it's like a static charge, full, all of these are used based on the current battery power. Now, if something, you can see like I have all this logic in here, the next string added is warn. Because if warn is active and if it meets the certain conditions in here, then the actual status is turned off and now there's no battery icon. But then warn is also added. So if warn is there, then warn is a exclamation battery and a space. Or if it is not needed and the other statuses take precedence, then warn is a null string, which is why I have it added in to the printf. Either warn is on or something else is on. There's always a battery icon. And then the last argument into printf is echoing as a command substitution, echoing the current capacity, which is that number. So capacity would in this case be like 99 capacity. So in this case, 99. And we're passing that into sed-e, basically a substitution that says $, which is the end of the line, find the end of the line and replace the end of the line with a %sign. So we can just run that quickly here, pipe that into sed-e, single quote s substitution $%, and close it off. And it does 99%, which is why we see the % on the status bar. So all of this output, all of this logic is basically saying, look at how much capacity we have left on the battery, change the color based on what the current capacity is, and change the icon based on what the current capacity is. Now, I took these out for the sake of the demo. I'm going to test later to see if these actually need to be added in towards the bottom of these statements. Now, though you structure these things top to bottom sometimes based on which thing you want to successfully process first, but when it comes to said statements like this, when it's just doing all of them, it's really just whatever hits is actually what is operated on, and then it's not going to find anything successively, so it's just going to leave it at that current battery icon. I'm not sure if these inputs needed to be added back. I'm going to test that. I think it's just if I have a 0 or low battery, I will test. But currently, with them added in, the current version of this battery script is available on my .files on GitHub. A link to my GitHub is in the description below. And this is my battery script for my status bar. So it takes a single battery variable as input in the status bar here, bat0, bat1. I do this twice because I can easily manage how many batteries I'm running this on. And this is how I currently manage my battery power with i3Blocks in my status bar. I will likely do other script reviews if this is something that people would like to continue to see. I do have some other ones I've written myself or heavily edited from other sources. If you'd like me to see, if you would like to see me to, I cannot speak. If you would like to see me review other scripts, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you liked the video. If you liked the video, then like the video. And for now, that's it. And so far, Thank you to Devin, who is my patron on Patreon, and Alberto, who is a new patron. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. And to everyone else, I will see you next time. Bye.